Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, I mean, when it's a late night Villa Filler, you just know it's going to hit different. You just know for the people who are listening at home, who are watching at home, currently 10:30 on Tuesday. I've lost count of all the days, I can't lie. And, we've seen the reports from Marsa of all places, which from what I understand and from what we're sort of told at my place of work, Marsa is a somewhat reliable source of information. It's one that is goal approved, and Villa have been linked with Atletico Madrid's JOAO Felix. I cannot believe them words have just came out of my mouth, Dan. What?
Yeah, this is nuts, mate. I've been trying not to go on my phone as much now, like during the games and everything like that for the World Cup. I've been trying to proper tunnel vision and take it all in for myself and then go on after and pop some comments on and everything like that. And so I watched this game. Obviously, Portugal have just won 6-1 against Switzerland. I then opened my phone and go on Twitter, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing JOAO Felix in Villa kits, like all of the skill moves like he was doing in the game are getting retweeted by Villa fan accounts. I'm like, what is going on here? And then you text me a screenshot of the link. I'm like, mate, let's go on this. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of
That's
sense.
the
And,
one.
and normally I don't like to come on these podcasts without any research or any notes or anything like that. I am doing it on this occasion because it's a superstar. We don't
Yeah.
need you don't need to do much digging into JOAO Felix. Although if you do go on his Wikipedia page, he plays for Aston Villa. I don't know if you've seen. So
Brilliant.
someone's already been at that. But yeah, he's a player I have a lot to say on. I have a lot to say on Atleti and Simeone and his time there. So yeah, he's definitely going to be looking for a move away in January. But whether it's to the Villa, mate, I don't know.
It's unbelievable. Again, you guys don't need us to sit here and give a deep dive on the stats and the numbers. If you're not familiar with Joao Felix, I'd like to know what rock you've been living under because he has been at Atletico Madrid for a few seasons now, and I don't want to say like it's gone badly, mate, because like 94 La Liga appearances, 24 goals, 14 assists. Sorry, I said I wouldn't do stats, but I've just done stats. 3 goals, 3 assists in 12 appearances this season in La Liga. It it could be better. It could be better, but that like everybody knows what Atletico Madrid has been about for the past 8 or so years since Diego Simeone has taken charge of that team. And this one really raised eyebrows at the time, mate. This transfer specifically because at the time, he was sort of tearing it up for Benfica. I think he burst onto the scene at like 16 and a half years old. He was scoring hat tricks left, right, and centre. And everybody, and I mean everybody, was after this kid. Manchester City, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, all chasing this guy's signature. So when he landed at Atletico Madrid, knowing exactly how they play, knowing the style, knowing the philosophy, knowing what Diego Simeone is like, it was very strange to see that they would spend the best part of what I believe was 150 million euros at the time on this guy because they almost just there felt like there was a stylistic difference. And either way, he has had a brilliant time at Atleti. I think had he have gone to any of the other clubs we just named, his trajectory would have gone like fucking straight up, as opposed to this sort of steady rise that we've come to see. Um, I think at the time as well, I could be wrong, Dan, but I think this was around the time they just sold Antoine Griezmann to Barcelona as well, so they had money to burn, and they had an Antoine Griezmann shaped hole to fill in that squad. And when you look at Griezmann and Felix, they are actually both quite very similar players. But I think the sort of the comparison of Griezmann, someone who can kind of operate in any of the forward positions. There's certainly a lot more about him just purely due to the fact that he's a more seasoned pro and has that experience, has been there and done it at Sociedad, then at Atleti at the time as well. It almost, it felt too good to be true at the time. I think a long and convoluted way of saying that. And it doesn't really come as much as of a surprise, does it, that he's perhaps looking for an exit out of Madrid?
No, it's absolutely not. You're right. I'm really glad you touched on the fact that it felt like a really weird landing spot for him at the time because he didn't have a clear position that he would slot into. Obviously, everybody knows how Simeone plays, and this sort of his position is really hard to nail down because he's not a nine. I wouldn't really describe him as a 10 or like a wide. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't say,
Mm.
oh, yeah, he's a winger, he's a 10, he's a strike. Like, he can operate in a lot of those areas and is best when he's sort of playing, I think, sort of behind a forward line, but he has complete roam and freedom to sort of in a possession based side. Um, None of which is available to you in a Simeone system. And I have my gripes with Simeone. Obviously, a lot of people love him. Um, I for the longest time, and I feel like this way about like Fernando Santos, and we saw it in the Portugal game today. I just think with this style of football, you just restrict players so much, and like this constant underdog mentality that Atleti has, where they're like sort of happy to come in like third and fourth in the league, despite having comfortably like a squad capable of challenging for the title every year, sort of gripes me a little bit. I always feel like if you gave like that Atleti squad to Barcelona and they played in red and blue and played at the new camp, they'd win titles like every year, like
Yeah.
playing possession based football. Um, and it's the same with Gareth Southgate with England. It's the same with Fernando Santos with Portugal. Like there's all these teams, and I always think like, why do you do it? And it means that guys like Felix don't necessarily get that chance to shine. And Atleti have come on the record and say that yeah, we think it's time to move Felix on. Obviously, you're right, he moved for about 115 million pounds, mate. Just even in the fee, that's not Atleti.
No,
It's still to this
not at all.
day the highest fee they'll ever paid for a player. I wouldn't be surprised if it stays that way for a very long time. They don't do that. It's still, I think, it's the fourth highest fee ever paid in world football. Um, he not only did it come right after Griezmann's departure to Barca, he took his shirt number. So you talked about that Griezmann shaped hole. He like quite literally took Griezmann's place in the squad. And I see now what they tried to do, but it hasn't worked. They're on the book saying that they want him to go. But all those clubs that you listed were interested in him at the start, mate. They're still around now. But apparently we're in the reckoning.
It's mad, isn't it? Honestly, it's mad. And I mean, like transfer marks has him valued currently at like 15 million, not 15, God, I can't read, 50 million euros. And like it does feel like it's one of them ones where Atleti are maybe going to have to kind of firm it and hold the L in terms of the fee, because I think like the way it's gone, people, clubs will look at that situation and go, well, okay, but he hasn't exactly pulled up trees for you, has he? Um, the word from Marca, as reported by Villa Report, Aston Villa are very well positioned, is the quote, to sign JOAO Felix from Atletico Madrid. The CEO is allegedly already negotiating with Villa. Again, that comes from Marca, as reported by Villa Report. They're fairly on it with that kind of stuff. But it seems really weird. Like, one, the timing, because like as you say, mate, Portugal played and beat Switzerland tonight at like 7 o'clock UK time. I'm not exactly sure when this broke. I think it was probably an hour or so ago. It's not been. Oh, okay. So we're looking at tweets from 8 o'clock, half eight,
Yeah,
which
I've got the story landing on marker at 10 to 9. So like Spanish time. So yeah,
so it
not
like
long ago.
the timing just seems a bit weird. Like to kind of drop that while Portugal and Felix are playing. Um, I don't know. I don't know. And I'd like, as much as I'm like getting giddy at the thought of this guy coming, and we have this discussion every time, mate, with the transfer rumor mill. Never want to say no. I don't see it happening. I cannot see
No, mate.
somebody who is like, to put it lightly, a generational talent landing in Birmingham. I just don't see it, unfortunately. There's something about him. I think his build, I think his playing style, it very much suits playing football on the continent. And I think it's fair to say his best position is probably a sort of second striker, as you say. Just it's the Deli Alley role, really, isn't it? That's a very unglamorous way of putting it, but that role doesn't really exist in the English game anymore. And I know we're kind of seeing, James Maddison, who's having a brilliant season, as much as it pains me to say, because I do think he's quite average. But again, he's been kind of playing out in a sort of inverted winger spot, on the left and on the right on occasion. So I don't know where Joao Felix fits into this side, mate. And especially, it would be absolutely criminal for me to sit here and do a like for like comparison with him and Felipe Coutinho, because it would be so disrespectful to Felix. But that's the easiest comparison I think I can make with a player in the Villa squad, mate. Is the sort of probably ends up finding himself somewhere on the left in fairly ambiguous positions at times. And I think there'd be so much heat on this guy. There'd be so many people looking at him. So many people, not even Villa fans, but just the whole footballing world would be watching Joao Felix at Aston Villa, and it almost seems he'd just be destined to fail.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. He definitely will, I think, need to take a step down from that elite bracket of clubs, and I think that's best for him. I think he needs somewhere where he can be the main guy in a team. But you're right in saying that it needs a very specific. He doesn't want to leave one problem and land in another. He needs to pick this next team really clever, and you look at teams that play a second striker, like Inter spring to mind in the way that they play Lautaro off of Lukaku in an ideal world. So it's like it's clubs like that. You'd really need to find a club like that can play that. Villa under Emery, if we go to a sort of that 4-2-2-2 sort of thing, like theoretically, one could open up there if this were ever. I mean, I have to put this in a Villa sense, despite my best sort of my instincts are telling me it's not going to happen. But like for you guys, this it's not like the spot in the team could open up. I mean, if this was under Gerrard, I'd say, and his playing style, I would say it's a definite no. Like there's no. But with Unai, we've sort of seen how Buendia and the like have played in those forward roles. It's a bit fluid. Yeah, it's all come out because of these quotes from the CEO of Atleti, Miguel Marin, who said that he's the biggest bet the club have ever made. He's a high-performance player, one of the best in the world, but for reasons that it's not worth naming, the relationship between him and the coach is not good, nor is his motivation. I would love for it to continue, but it's not the player's intention. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a loan at first, because
Really?
yeah, I would, because I mean, maybe not, but just like what, a 50-60 million pound deal in January, like with a loan with an obligation, or I think it would be a loan with an obligation at first. But wouldn't be surprised if that's the way that he gets out. Look, as I said, I do think he'll have to take a bracket into that second tier of clubs. The fact that he chooses a club which is playing no European football whatsoever and may not be next season either, well, I think we can say with some confidence won't be playing European football next season. Like, seems unlikely. It wouldn't surprise if he stepped into the Europa League, but to go for a club with no European football at all, would really surprise me. And I think for that reason alone, you can count out the Villa.
Would it? I mean, I know I've said it would probably put eyes on him, but to kind of argue the other side, would it almost take that pressure off him completely, stepping out of the limelight in that kind of way?
It's an interesting one.
I think
it's an interesting one,
because I think there are that's quite a crude and sort of corporate way Marino has kind of put that. Obviously, we don't understand the situation. We are not inside on the ground. We don't have this sort of information or intel, but it doesn't take a genius to know that Diego Simeone probably doesn't fancy him as much as the people who probably penned this deal, because one, I think it's shown in minutes that he's actually played. Two, the overall impact, as we kind of alluded to at the start, mate, hasn't been as overwhelmingly positive as it probably would have been had he have moved to another club. And three, just I think I already said start, but I'm going to reiterate that point. Stylistically, nobody would have paired Joao Felix with Diego Simeone. And listen, Diego Simeone knows way more about football than I ever have and will know. And the same for you, mate. But I don't think it takes a genius to kind of figure out that I don't think there's a lot about football that Diego Simeone could teach JOAO Felix that he doesn't already know as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely right, mate. It's one way I can definitely see that he needs to get out. I'm just sort of thinking in my head of like clubs where I could see this deal sort of landing. Um, I and I genuinely believe that you're right in that he probably needs to get out the spotlight a little bit. Um, and that, you know, he needs to just go somewhere and go back to basics and do what he does best. But the problem is that um I think it will follow him because I
Yeah,
wouldn't say that there's a great spotlight on Atleti. I don't think in the like obviously Real Madrid and Barca are the clubs in Spain that are like I don't think it's a club where like every week people are clamoring over the results of Atletico Madrid, and it hasn't worked there. I think wherever he goes, it will be really interesting. I think look at how Dybala stepped down a tier, so to
yeah.
speak, and went to Roma. That kind of move is what you're looking at, and I think unfortunately Villa are maybe a category below. But hey, mate, it's really exciting. But I still think the guys Unai knows at Villarreal, your Chukwuezes, your Pinos, guys like that, are the sort of links where that probably has more substance coming out of Spain.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And, there's so many other logistics that we'd have to work out on this deal as well, mate. Have to somehow get McGinn to give up the number 7 shirt. Like, are we going to give this guy number 20 in January until then? Like, can he be the heir to Christian Benteke that we've been searching for the past, like, God knows, 8 years now? Um, these are all questions that I don't have the answer to, unfortunately, guys. But nevertheless, it's one that I think, and to kind of speak on the character of him as well, which I do think is important. I personally, I don't see any issues with him, sort of having this, like, if we want to call it beef, in air quotes, with Simeone. I think he's more than fair to be frustrated at the lack of minutes, and that it maybe hasn't gone the way that he imagined. He's a 23-year-old lad. Like, realistically, that's quite young, and moving to Atletico Madrid in 2019, that would make him what? Make him 20. So, maybe the people advising him at the time didn't necessarily have everything sort of as worked out as they may have thought. But this is a guy who scored I think it's his first competitive goal in the 18th of August 2018. So, like, this, he was barely even 17 when he scored, which is mental. And then a week later, he becomes the youngest player to ever score in the Lisbon derby. Like, it's mental. And, I think as you say, mate, I think it hasn't gone as to plan as people would have hoped and expected. And especially Joao himself, there's no way he would have envisaged it going like this with the sort of the trajectory he was on when he was at Benfica. So I don't know. The more we've talked this out, mate, the less excited I've got. I can't lie. I was buzzing, but as it, the quotes described, mate, as Marina describes, it was a gamble, and whatever is next for Joao is going to be a gamble for both him and the interested parties, realistically, right?
Yeah, totally, mate. Totally. You can see like for him, like it must be frustrating being at Atleti because we mentioned that he's coming to replace Griezmann and thought he would get that Rome, and he's just seen the club move heaven and earth
To get him
to get
back.
that weird low move to get Griezmann back, and now he's playing ahead of him again. And it's like, wait, hold on, I was brought into I was his replacement, and now we've had their lawyers on the case arguing over this loan move, and now finally they've agreed a fee and everything like this, and now like Griezmann can play sort of without those restricted minutes which he was getting. It must be really weird. And yeah, if he was, if he was 33 instead of 23, I'd go maybe. Because it's this sort of one final swing of the bat sort of thing, but he's not there yet. He's not there yet, and maybe one day. maybe one day. But for now, I think JOAO Felix will. I couldn't tell you where he's going to land. It's really interesting. I still believe that Spain is the best place for him, but there aren't really clubs there. So it'd be interesting to see where he lands. But if it is to the Premier League, I think Arsenal or someone like that would work nicely. I think a real possession based side would be good. So yeah, it'd be one to keep an eye on. But if he ends up in claret and blue, mate, I'd be shocked.
Absolutely, absolutely. Trying to find out who his agent was. Just do food. I don't know. I've not got my glass and I can't read that. I've absolutely butchered that. I think that's the agency. I don't know who. Oh, okay. So looking at the players they've got on their books: Bernardo Silva, Ruben Diaz, João Cancelo, Darwin. There's a trend here. There's
Is
a
that
trend
Jorge
here.
Mendes?
I think it may be. I think that may be his group. Is Ronaldo on here?
Yeah,
But
I'm
I
looking
can
at the
look on.
Marca article now, and it's mentioning
Yeah,
Jorge Mendes.
yeah.
So
So well, there you go. I mean, someone who we've done business with before, so maybe he can figure something out as an apology for bloody Andre Moreira because that's a deal that didn't work out for anyone. Um, but yeah, I mean, like finally, mate, just to kind of
and
I think round
what an apology that would be, by the way. Oh yeah, I'm sorry about Andre Moreira. Here's JOAO Felix.
take this generational talent instead. No, it would be. Please, Jorge, please figure something out. Um, I think like I think ultimately as well, what it boils down to, mate, does this solve a problem that we have in the squad right now? Like, uh, we everybody on this podcast knows. You guys know we fucking love Danny Ings, we love Ollie Watkins, but they just aren't scoring goals or enough goals as we think they're capable of, and that's
100%.
definitely not a controversial opinion. Um, does Felix come in and change that? I don't think he does. I don't think he's the
It's
guy
a
that gets you
luxury.
15 goals, is it? Like, do you want to
It's a
like
luxury.
Leon Bailey? There was quotes we didn't even cover because it was like I didn't even fucking believe them myself. But he goes to Ajax, he goes to wherever. You have a bit of cash in your pocket. You've got some loose change that's burning a hole in your pocket, and you've covered off all the bases. You've got your Pau Torres, your ball playing centre half. You've gone and got your Marcus Thuram, your Fort whoever, and you genuinely have cash burning around, then maybe this makes sense. And because like it would genuinely improve the squad. There's no two ways about that. But it's not solving an immediate issue. And it like as I'm saying this, I do genuinely sound ludicrous because of course everybody would take Joao Felix over Emi Buendia, over Leon Bailey, over I mean, who else do we even have in them positions? I've forgotten. It's been so long. God, bring club football back. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah,
you'd be
yeah, yeah.
stupid not to, but it's not solving any. If anything, it's creating problems, and we're not fixing the problems that we currently have. So I can't believe I've just sat here, mate, and spoke to you for half an hour and talked myself out of this. I actually
Clip it
cannot believe
up.
this.
Clip it up.
This
Yeah,
for sure.
do you remember when we did like Higuain and Cavani in the season? I think it was like the season we got promoted and we did it like back to back in a week. Feels a bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
mate, we always say it here on the Villa podcast. I made a tit of myself when we first got linked to Coutinho, and here we are. He's been rubbish. So maybe
What are you talking about?
on that basis alone, just don't trust anything I say. Apparently, but yeah, who knows, mate? Let's see.
Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're Portuguese, if you are an Atletico Madrid fan, if you are a Benfica fan, let us know your thoughts. It is exciting. I promise. I am more excited than I appear. I am. This is amazing. I can't believe I've talked myself down. But yeah, we're pushing for 6,000 subscribers, guys. We'd really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button because there's currently 45% of you that are watching this video right now on YouTube that aren't subscribed. If you're watching it, you may as well subscribe. And if you hit the bell, you'll never miss it. An upload from us. If you haven't already as well, we're on Instagram and TikTok at VillaPhilipod on Instagram and at Heart of the Holte on TikTok. I almost got
It's
it the
been
wrong
a
way around.
while, hasn't it?
It's been a while. It has actually been a while. But guys, as the World Cup beginning to wind up, we've had some really interesting games. The Villa boys are obviously out in Dubai. We've got the Chelsea game. There's a Brighton game behind closed doors as well. There's going to be more content. And we know it's transfer rumour season. The fact that we're speaking about this ludicrous deal right now, it's transfer rumour season. It's exciting. So you will be seeing plenty of Dan and I. And as I say, make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok, please. There's going to be a massive focus on them so we can just deliver content to you directly, just like instantly, instantaneously. You don't have to go anywhere. You're already on these apps anyway. You may as well follow us. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up Villa.